The man who watched the lights. Kieran Lane was the kind of street you didn't notice until you had to. Narrow, cracked pavement, leaning lamp posts, and buildings so old their bricks were soft with rot. Aram had been driving his taxi through that lane for years. Nothing unusual, until the winter of 2019. It began with the lights. At exactly 2:43 a.m., the streetlights would flicker in a strange rhythm. Long, short, short, long. It wasn't the random blink of faulty wiring. It was too deliberate, too precise. That's when he noticed the man, always at the far end of the lane, under the last working lamp. A long, dark coat, brimmed hat hiding his face. He never moved, never shifted. Just stood there as the lights performed their strange little dance. At first, Aram told himself it was coincidence. Just some night wanderer. But night after night, the man was there. And the more Aram looked, the more he felt the man wasn't standing under the light. He was holding it. Like the glow existed only because of him. One night, curiosity overpowered sense. Aram stopped the taxi, left the engine running, and stepped into the cold. His shoes crunched on the frost-bitten asphalt as he walked toward the man. With every step, the street behind him went dark, one light at a time in perfect silence, until only the lamp above the man remained lit. The rest of the world was swallowed in blackness. Aram reached speaking distance. "Who are you?" The man tilted his head, and in a voice that didn't move his lips, he said, "You've seen enough light for one life. Time to see what's on the other side." The lamp above them went out. The next morning, police found Aram's taxi idling on Kieran Lane. The driver's seat was still warm. No sign of Aram. The streetlights never flickered again. But if you stand at the end of the lane at 2:43 a.m., locals swear you'll see two men under that last lamp. The phone that shouldn't ring. Maria's apartment was small, but perfect. One bedroom, a tiny balcony, and best of all, no clutter. She lived alone and liked it that way. That's why when she unlocked her door one Friday evening and heard the sound of an old rotary phone ringing, her stomach twisted. She didn't own a landline. The sound came from her bedroom. She stepped inside and froze. There, against the far wall, sat a black rotary phone. It looked ancient, the kind you'd see in a museum. The ringing stopped the second she approached. She told herself it was a prank. Maybe her landlord storing junk in her room. She unplugged it from the wall, though she never saw a cable, and left it in the hallway. The next night it was back in her bedroom, and at 12:01 a.m. it rang again. She picked up. "Hello?" At first, silence, then breathing, and finally, a voice. Low, flat, and deliberate. "Don't look behind you." Her heart thudded. Against her better judgment, she turned. Nothing. Just her empty room. She dropped the phone and stepped back. The calls became nightly. The voice began telling her things. Where she'd gone that day, what she'd eaten, what she'd been thinking. One night, it said, "You've left the door unlocked for me. I'm coming in now." Maria slammed and bolted her door, but the phone was still in her hand. She could hear footsteps through it, closer, 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 until they stopped. The next morning, her neighbors complained about a constant ringing from her apartment. The police broke in. The place was empty. No furniture, no clothes, no Maria. Just a black rotary phone ringing. The basement apartment. The ad was too good to be true. a fully furnished basement apartment for half the usual rent. Sammy didn't hesitate. When he met the landlord, the man barely spoke. His eyes darted nervously. His hands never stopped trembling. As he handed over the key, the landlord finally spoke. "Stay inside at night. And whatever happens, don't open the door if you hear knocking." The apartment was cozy enough, low ceilings but warm. For the first few nights, Sammy felt safe. Then, at 1:12 a.m. on the fourth night, there was a knock. Slow, heavy, deliberate. He froze, remembering the warning. The knock grew louder. Then, a whisper through the door. "It's cold out here. Please, just for a minute." The voice was human, desperate. Sammy stayed silent. Hours later, curiosity got the better of him. He checked under the door. No feet. But the floor outside was wet, as if something had been dripping. The next night, the knocking returned. This time, the voice was different. Softer. "Sammy, it's me. Please let me in." It was his mother's voice, but his mother had been dead for 5 years. He pressed his hands to his ears until it stopped. On the 7th night, the landlord came to collect rent. Sammy opened the door. The landlord stared at him with wide, horrified eyes. "You answered." That was the last anyone saw of Sammy. The basement apartment remains empty, the rent unchanged. But sometimes at 1:12 a.m., neighbors swear they hear a knock, and a voice, changing each time, saying just the right thing to make you want to open the door.